This is the Art of Network Engineering podcast. In this podcast, we'll explore tools, technologies, and talented people. We aim to bring you information to expand your skill sets and toolbox and share the stories of fellow network engineers. Welcome to the Art of Network Engineering. I am A.J. Murray. And tonight with me, I have Dan.
Howdy.
How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing good, AJ. Yourself?
Not too bad.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm really excited, Dan, because I've known you for a bit longer than the other guys. At least I've been talking to you longer than the other guys, right? Like I interacted with Andy and Aaron on social media, but I think that you and I had conversation going one-on-one well before I started talking really to Andy and Aaron. So I'm really excited to like hang out with you tonight. It's just you and me, and Andy and Aaron are not around. So I think we're going to get into some good conversation.
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited about that. So, but we'll get to that in just a second. What I do want to get to though are some wins. We got a lot of wins. So I went back through all the way to like the end of December and I captured all the wins that we've had in the winning channel and the Discord. And we got some really, really good ones. Just yesterday, Kev Cam 0, as he goes by, his Discord John, as Andy might say, passed the JNCIA Junos exam. So congratulations, Kev.
Is that like the CCNA? I don't know anything about Juniper.
So it's really interesting, actually. I would say that the JNCIA is like a sweet mix between the CCENT and the CCNA.
Okay.
It doesn't really focus on networking foundations. It really focuses on Junos, right?
Like their operating system?
Their operating system, yeah.
Okay.
It would be like if Cisco had an exam that focused on iOS or iOS XE or something like that, and like really broke it down. I mean, it will test you on command syntax, and it uses like, some networking speak to get through that, but it doesn't test you on like OSI or anything like that.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, a little bit the same, but yeah, it's a really good intro to Juniper. So if you're considering it, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think one of these days I might take a look at some Juniper stuff. We just don't have any, so that's why I never looked at it.
Well, if you look at it, you might buy some.
Hey, maybe. Never know until you try, right?
Right, exactly. I wish that I could know exactly where this screen name is headed, but I'm just going to say Zach. Zach recently passed his Encore. So congratulations, nice. Zach. That's a big one. Yeah. Bo Toop.
Yeah, that's the guy that won Andy's giveaway, right?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that with Andy here soon, but he passed his N+ exam, the CompTIA N+.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and his plan immediately following the N+ was to jump into the CCNA, and well-timed because he just got Andy's lab, so he'll have that to go with him. David Penaloza, we all know David. David's really big on the Twitter. He's also big in our Discord, and he dropped in the winning channel the other day that he passed the Service Provider VPN Services exam. So that is it's a specialization associated with the service provider track. So congratulations, David.
Nice. Good job. Does he work at a service provider?
Yeah, he works for Verizon.
Okay.
Yeah, he's an architect for Verizon. AITJ. I know Jay. Jay and I have talked many times on Twitter and other social media platforms. He just passed his Azure 104 exam, so the AZ 104.
Nice.
Year anniversary of his first CCIE, so congratulations, Jeff. Again, Jeff Kish in the Discord, dropping that in the winning channel. Beautiful plaque Cisco sent him for celebrating 10 years of keeping that certification up to date.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, when you do the CCIE, to keep that up to date, do you have to do those continual learning credits or whatever they're called?
So there's there's continuing education, learning credits, stuff like that.
Education.
So it's taking classes at Cisco Live. You can take encore exams. You can do, or not encore exams, core level exams. So if you already have like your CCIE route switch, you could go for the security core exam.
Oh, okay.
And pass that. Or you could just, stay in the same track and pass the encore, and that would renew it.
I gotcha.
And then I recently just read that you could do 3 of the professional level specializations.
Okay.
And that would renew your expert level certification as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways that you can do it now.
Okay. Well, good job though.
And then there's also, I mean, if you don't want to do that, there's the what is it, the Emeritus or Emeritus?
Oh yeah.
I forget how you say it. Some
Yeah, I don't know.
thing.
But it's kind of like you retire it, right? Like.
So it's you hold it. Like if you're in a point where you can't commit to like studying or going through that recertifying process, instead of like letting it expire and then having to start from square one, you can pay Cisco a nominal fee, and it's like less than $100 as I understand it, and it moves your CCIE to the Emeritus status, and then whenever you get around to it, you go ahead and take that core level exam, those 3 specializations, or whatever you decide you want to do, and as soon as you do that, that pulls it out of the Emeritus status and renews it to fully certified.
Gotcha.
So it's just a way to like keep it going without letting it expire.
Yeah. Can I take my CCENT and put it in Emeritus status?
I don't know. That might be a question. We'll have to tweet at Learning at Cisco and see if that's a possibility. I'm not sure.
I'm just curious.
That's really funny. Like CCENT Emeritus.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on my LinkedIn.
That is great. Oh man,
just not in time right now. I gotta do something else. No.
That's right. That's right. So, like I alluded to earlier in the intro, I think that you and I we both come from smaller areas, right? Like Vermont, not a big place. The particular area in Tennessee that you live in, not a particularly populated area. And what does that mean, right? We're fighting for jobs.
Yeah.
Yep. The job market is not what it would be in, say, a metropolitan area.
Exactly.
And
where I live, the town I'm in, I mean, I can't even think of 10 jobs or 10, companies in our area that would even have like an IT department. So a handful of places. I happen to work at one, but yeah, it very, very small town, very what's the word? I guess remote. I guess you want to say. if you yeah, and the thing is like Nashville is a booming IT place right now.
Oh sure.
But to work in Nashville, which now with a lot of jobs going remote, it puts you back on the market a little bit more.
Yes.
But before COVID happened and all that stuff, and before working remote really got big, you'd have to drive all the way to Nashville. And if anybody that lives in the Nashville area knows, 65 north and south is like absolutely horrible on traffic. And I mean,
I've been there. I've driven on that road.
Yeah. So it's just in the morning times, and basically the time people are going to work and when they're leaving work, it is just a freaking nightmare. Yeah. It's like wrecks every day, and it's just bad. So driving through all that's just
I got a funny story about driving on that highway. I got hit by a wheelbarrow. I am not even joking.
You gotta watch out for them wheelbarrows around here.
Hit by a wheelbarrow. Yeah, it was a car like 2 or 3 lanes over. It's rush hour traffic. I'm in a rental van, and I've got my team with me, like 3 people that I work with that work for me. I was the IT manager at the time. We're going from the conference venue that we were in town for back to our Airbnb, which was just outside of downtown Nashville, like lower Broadway, right? Like just a couple blocks over from there. And there's a guy who clearly does some sort of outdoor business. He's got his truck towing a trailer, got a wheelbarrow on there. That trailer hits a pothole. That wheelbarrow comes flying off the trailer and directly skidding across like 3 lanes of traffic There's cars in front of me. There's cars behind me. There's nothing I can do. So I'm like looking out the driver's side window, watching this wheelbarrow come at me, and I'm just like, hang on.
Yeah.
And that thing like hits the minivan. It puts a very good gouge in like the front rocker panel, like fender area, just behind the driver's side front tire, and it bounces off the van and starts skidding back the other way across traffic, and people are like hitting their brakes or swerving. Yeah, fun times in national highways.
Yeah. Well, if anybody that lives in the area knows that the traffic is absolutely horrible in the Nashville area. So yeah, that, I just, because here's the thing, like let's say if I had to drive that every day, right? And it's like an hour plus to get there and an hour plus to get back home. I mean, you just added 2 hours to your day right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you're not at your house with your family or doing what you want to be doing, kind of thing.
And anybody will test like that kind of stuff, because I've done that. I had to take a job outside of the county that I live in, and it was like an hour and a half one way. And, I would say at first doing a commute like that, like it gives you some time to think about your day.
Yeah.
What am I going to accomplish when I get to the office? And then you could listen to a podcast while you're commuting in. And then at the reverse, at the end of your day, you could think about stuff like, oh, what didn't I get done today? What could have gone better? Working on that project or whatever. There was definitely some benefit to the commute, but I would say by and large, it added more stress. It took time away from the family. And it just, at a certain point, when the job wasn't maybe as exciting and when it became more stressful, then the commute just added to that, whole negative feeling of, I can't believe now, not only do I not want to go to work today, now I got to drive an hour and a half one way to get there.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to dodge wheelbarrows getting there. It's just stress that I don't want.
Yeah.
Because like where I'm at now, I mean, I'm only like 15 minutes away from work. Like,
oh, that's nice.
And it's a straight drive basically. I mean, there's no crazy traffic or anything like that. I just get in my car and drive on down.
Beautiful. So to kind of, I guess, highlight to give the audience some concrete facts that lets them know just how small a town we live in.
Yeah.
I wanted to highlight that. So. For me, in the entire state of Vermont, 624,000 people. Okay.
Golly, that's the entire state?
The entire state of Vermont.
Wow, dude.
That's not like Burlington, which is, by far the largest city and the most populated. That's just, 624,000 is the entire state of Vermont. So some areas that compare to that, Seattle, Washington. 724,000 people live in Seattle. Washington, D.C., 692,000. And Boston, not too far from me, 684,000. And also not too far from me, Montreal, 1.7 million.
So you take like somewhere like Boston and that city.
Just Boston. Yeah.
Like could live in Vermont.
Yeah.
just spread them out. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's wild, dude. That's wild.
In fact, more people live in Boston than live in the state of Vermont. So you could take 3/4 of Boston, and that's Vermont.
Yeah. Wow.
Looking at some larger areas, you live just outside Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville, Tennessee is 1.2 million. Tennessee as a whole is 6.8 million people. L.A., 3.9 million, New York City, 8.4 million, and London, 8.9 million. And then the small county that I live in, just the county that I live in is 164,000, and the county that you live in is 96,000. So when you think about, the county that you live in, the county that I live in versus a place like New York City, okay, millions and millions of people, like there's going to be a lot of jobs in a place like New York City.
Yep.
Not a lot of jobs. There's not a lot of jobs, period. And then you want to look at like IT jobs. Okay. There might be a good handful of IT jobs, but I see a lot of like SQL and applications, and stuff other stuff, right? Like the amount of jobs that are like infrastructure related, or if you're looking in my area, if you think that you're going to move to Burlington, Vermont, and find a network engineering job, you may, but it's probably far and few between, because there's very few places up here that are so big that they require a dedicated network engineer. Most of the IT places around here, you're a jack of all trades, master of nothing, right? Like, and that was most of my IT career, was doing just that. I've held titles like network engineer and network administrator, but I can tell you that networking was just a small part of the job.
Yeah. Yeah, and our company is a little different in our area. Like I think our IT department's about 160 or 170 or something like that.
Wow.
Now the infrastructure team, we're only about like 15 or something like that, 14 something. And then the network team specifically, there's only 4 of us. And so I don't think even the hospital has close to that big of an IT department here. Now I don't know if they outsource a lot of their staff or what, or their work maybe. But yeah, I think we have the largest IT in our county, if I was to guess.
Yeah. 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 The hospital in our area is the largest employer in the entire state of Vermont.
That's
And
just wild.
I think there's thousands of people that work there.
Yeah.
There's been some other larger companies, surprisingly, a lot of like e-companies, right? Like we have a company here that focused on providing a web front end for grocery stores. So if you wanted to have an account with a grocery store where you track all your coupons and stuff like that, like that's what this company did.
Okay.
There's another company in a different county that they provide software for recreational areas, so golf clubs and resorts and other places like that, like track their memberships, schedule times and tee boxes, whatever the case may be, and that's headquartered out of here in Vermont. So it is really interesting, the different kinds of companies that you'll find around here. But I think that with a lot of the technologies, like SaaS based stuff, like the need for having in-house IT people to do some of that is just it's not always there. Not to mention the size. Like Vermont is really, really big on small business, and as a result, there's a few businesses around here that they've been around for decades, but only now are they growing to the size where they are starting to think about having a dedicated IT person. So, point in case, I've got a good friend of mine. He works at a company. They're a skincare company, and he's their first dedicated IT employee, and they've been around for decades.
Okay. But they just grew to the size now to where they could actually or they could justify having an IT person.
Yeah. And to meet the company's IT needs, there have been, a couple of, tech savvy people that worked there that kind of took on the, IT function, right? Like, so, they help buy computers and, buy software and get it set up for other employees, but they definitely weren't an IT person per se. And so after having so many people and all these computers, they finally said, okay, well, maybe we should get an IT person in here to, help drive us forward technology wise.
Yeah. Wow.
And he just applied to another job, and it's the same situation. Company, a little brewery that's been around forever, and they finally have grown to the size where they need a dedicated IT person on staff. That there are a couple of IT MSPs shops in the area that they serve the local area. They'll serve maybe New England or Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, that kind of thing. But they definitely cater to a lot of the small businesses in the area. So if you really wanted to get into an infrastructure network engineering position, that's where you may kind of like find yourself, because those are the businesses that have knocks. which
Okay.
I love Andy. Usually I've heard him say it like, well, doesn't your company have a knock? I've never worked for a company that's had a knock.
Yeah, me neither.
The company that I work for now, we have a knock, but we're a managed service provider as well, and so we have a knock to serve our customers.
I gotcha.
But I've worked for a company that was a global organization, had locations on several different continents, and we didn't have a knock.
Okay. Yeah. So you had me at a brewery that has an IT guy. I need to. I didn't know that was a thing. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
that. What am I doing? Like, I need to. I need to apply for something like that.
Vermont is known for having more breweries per capita than anywhere else in the country.
Okay. Yeah. You always have those like funky IPA cans that you show.
Yes, yes, that's true. There's tons and tons and tons of microbreweries around here. No shortage of them. There's new ones popping up all the time. It's incredible. And again, the state caters to small business, so people brew beer, they home brew, they decide one day, you know what, I'm going to give this thing a shot, and they go for it. And it's funny, like once a brewery gets into a space, it's built for a brewery, right? Like it's got all the equipment in there that they need. And if the business doesn't do well, it turns around and gets sold to another up and coming brewery.
There you go. Yeah.
And so there's all of these places that, for better or worse, they've had maybe 2 or 3 different breweries in the building, but there's always good beer to have. So
And that's what it's all about.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of these really great stories. Like there was a guy who started brewing beer in like the early 2000s, and he was literally brewing and filling kegs in his basement, and then he would take the kegs and go sell them to bars in downtown Burlington. Okay. And now he has a massive plant. He's got hundreds of employees, and it's this massive operation. They just started canning 12-ounce cans that they're going to start selling, like 12 packs, right? Of this beer. Like it was literally like when it started, you could only find it on tap, period. You can only find it at certain places, and then that started to grow. You could find it on tap at more and more places. And then they started at their 10-year anniversary, they started a release of bottling, and now they're just getting into canning. And it's been over 20 years now, and they're growing to the size of they need a dedicated IT person.
Okay. That is awesome. So dude literally started in his basement and then taking it to some places and they were selling it. And then he's now got his own like full operation. Yep. That's awesome. Yep. All right. Here's a random thought. We need to start an MSP for breweries that specialize in breweries. Right. Wait, maybe we need to cut that out of the podcast. We don't want people stealing our ideas.
Yeah. Right. But
dude, how cool would that be?
Yeah, I think you find like a lot of like feel good stories like that, though, right? Like the small mom and pop businesses that grow. I've worked for a construction company that was family named, family owned for the longest time, and just before I started working there, they turned it into an ESOP, so employee owned. Okay. Operations. So there's lots of businesses like that around here, as I'm sure there are, where you live. I don't know. I mean, I've never lived in a metropolitan area. Maybe there's tons of stuff like that in a metropolitan area, but I think it's definitely different living in a small town area like this or a lesser populated area when you start to think about like the job market. Yes. And positions and stuff like that. Like
because you got to think like, you have your job market, it's a whole pie, right? But then you got your different sectors that there are. And when you keep nailing it down to, okay, IT, so that takes a big sliver out of the pie there. And then not only IT, but infrastructure. Okay, that's another slice of the pie. And then specifically networking. And, so as you keep going down, what I'm trying to say is like, obviously in these metropolitan areas where there's millions and millions of people and they've got these, major corporations and whatnot, I would assume that it is much easier. Your pond's a lot bigger. So right. Your choices, you got more choices than in a very small town like this.
Yeah. I would think like you could get into a vertical and stay in that vertical, right? Like if you wanted to work in IT for manufacturing in a larger area, or in the Rust Belt, right? Like it would probably be no problem to get into manufacturing and stay in manufacturing. I've worked in manufacturing. I've worked in school districts. I've worked for public businesses, private businesses. I've kind of done the entire gambit, except healthcare. I haven't worked in healthcare.
I heard you have to sell your soul for that one. I'm not sure though.
That might be true. I'm not sure. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot more. I feel like it's a lot more competitive, and one of the things that I think that made it competitive up here is the college that I went to, because it was an IT focused college. And I think there's a lot of colleges that might have like a computer science degree, but the college that I attended actually had like infrastructure. Like they had like a network administrator, systems administrator classes. They taught classes on Windows and Linux and stuff like that. It wasn't just programming and hardware and like the computer sciencey stuff. Like we actually did a lot of that. And so you would have graduates of this college, by and large, most of them would take off and leave the state, as do most people that graduate. As soon as people leave high school, they kind of get out of here and go find larger prospects and jobs they're interested in. But, people that are interested in those IT jobs tend to like find them and soak them up pretty quickly. So one of the things that I think can really help people that live in a similar area is networking. And now I'm not talking about like IT networking. I'm talking about the social networking.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that helped me get almost every single one of my jobs. It wasn't me going out and applying for jobs. I would get asked to apply, or somebody would tell me about a position that they wanted me to go apply to in order for me to get, to move from one place to the other.
Yeah. And I mean, since you've already worked at every company in Vermont, or IT job, I guess, in Vermont, if Aaron was here, he would.
Right.
I think you would laugh. I don't know. Yeah. So that brings us to another point. You and I, although we're similar in a lot of things, we're also not similar in the fact that you've worked how many jobs now?
Oh, don't make me go back and count, Dan.
We'll just say 20 plus, somewhere around there, right?
Yeah, see, it's not that bad,
Okay, all right, 18 plus, something like that.
You know what? Again, I'm gonna go do this in real time here. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look at my LinkedIn profile and see how many IT jobs have I had. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
7, 8.
8.
8.
8 different jobs.
Final number 8.
Final number.
Yeah. Let me go to my LinkedIn. One IT job that I've worked. So we're different in that, right? You've done 8 IT jobs, and I've been at the same one going on my 9th year, actually.
Wow.
That in June this year will be my 9th year.
Yeah.
So we've talked around this before in some of our other episodes. What are the pros and cons of working multiple jobs versus working one job? Is it bad? Is either one bad? Because I've known people who kind of look at me as like I'm not growing, right? Because they're going from environment to environment to environment. And I think there's some truth in that, right? I think there's a benefit of seeing multiple environments out in the wild, right? Because you get a better idea of like, maybe this person wasn't doing it right, but that if that's the only way they know, that's the only way they know, right? And as you see different ones, you might take a little bit from each experience, and become a more knowledgeable person over that, like what to do in a certain situation, kind of thing. But then on the flip side, some people might think, you're not invested into a company because you're job hopping.
Right. So I think there is something to be said for both of that, right? Like, everybody does IT a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And I would say that in your instance, just in the time that I've known you and talked to you, like, I don't think that you should be concerned about growth or experience, right? Because I feel like you've gotten a few promotions since I've met you. I know that you've implemented some fun technology. You got hands on Cisco ACI. You got some new Palo Alto firewalls. You're doing a lot with Nexus. Like, you kind of got a lot going on there. So you're getting some really good experience just staying at this one place. And so I would say that I have at times experienced the inverse, where even though I have moved on from one place to another, the infrastructure at one place wasn't really well developed. They were running like literally, Dan. One of my first days there, I'm going through and walking through the building, checking out the network, looking at their different closets, and I found a 10 meg hub
Oh, nice. Like in use?
in use in
Oh, wow.
production, and that was in the last 10 years.
Nice.
And so it took a long time to convince them that, because as far as they were concerned, oh, it's working. Network's working. We don't need to replace this. There's no problem here.
Right.
And it's just like, well, no, like that's not good equipment. It's not modern equipment. You could be operating faster, more secure, And so there has been that struggle at times where even though I've moved on to a newer, different place, it was such a step back in time that, it actually took some time to get it modernized, let alone start looking ahead at like, where are we going to take the company? What kind of technology initiatives do we have to keep on our radar in order to support the business as it moves forward, kind of thing. So I think that there's a little bit of both. Now, as far as like, does it hurt you? It can, I think. If you're moving around like every 6 months, every year, something like that, I think that kind of movement can hurt you.
Okay.
I don't feel as though the movements that I've made have ever hurt me. At least I have never gotten that feedback throughout my career. And, as I look through it, there are some short stints.
Yeah.
So, the like second IT job I had, or no, it was kind of like technically my first. I did like a internship for the car dealership that I worked at, and after the internship, I continued to work there, not formally in IT, but I was basically one of the IT guys. Like anytime there was a computer problem, I was like the pseudo help desk.
Okay.
It wasn't my job to be the help desk, but I would say that at least half my time was spent helping the IT guy take care of IT requests.
Okay.
And then if he was occupied with something and there was a problem at another dealership, then I got pulled off of my primary job and sent down to the other dealership to help out with the IT stuff. So I was definitely doing more IT work as part of my daily job than what my actual daily job should have been.
Nice.
So I worked for a company for a while. I got laid off. That was like a little over a year. Absolutely nothing I can do about that. Bad economic times. I had to move on. I worked for 4 months for a small, very small consulting company. It was a great job. It was my first job as an engineer, as a network engineer, and I really got deep on some Cisco VoIP experience. And unfortunately, it was just one of those things where like I was on the road every day. I was headed into my senior year of college, and I couldn't see myself maintaining that kind of daily grind and trying to wrap up my senior year of college. And so I made the decision. I'm like, I'm sorry, like I got to finish college. I made that the priority. And so I did find a job that was closer to home.
Gotcha.
Now to your point about growth, my next job after that, I worked for tech support for a school district. It was a great job. I liked working there. And when I got hired, there was a lot of promise of, oh, well, you could grow into this position and this could happen and this could happen and this could happen. And after working there for 11 months, there was no sign of growth. I was completely stunted as to what I could do. I was hired on to help start the help desk. There was a team of network and systems administrators that lobbied to have a help desk started because they were trying to focus on project work to help move systems forward. But they couldn't because they kept getting pulled off and, having to do the help desk thing. So that's why they wanted to hire me, start the help desk. And so as interesting as their claim was, I was so chained as far as what I was allowed to do that I didn't feel like I was growing.
I gotcha.
I was like, I could only unlock student accounts. I was not allowed to unlock any adult accounts in the entire school district. No teachers, no support staff. Like if the help desk rang and it was an adult voice on the other end, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to escalate the call. I know how to help you, but I can't help you.
Yeah.
And no matter how much I went to and tried to lobby for my own behalf of like, look, I know how to help these. I can take care of this. This could be one less phone call that you guys don't have to worry about. Like, isn't that why I'm here?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And it never changed.
I got
And
you.
in some cases, it felt like it got worse. And so because of that, like I like to feel like I'm being challenged. I feel like I'm, there's opportunity to grow. And as soon as I hit a point where I no longer feel like I have that, that's when I get bored. That's when I start looking.
Yeah.
And so after only 11 months, I moved on from that position.
Okay. So between that position and your other position, you've got a little over a year between those two jobs.
Yep.
And
Yep.
were those your short-term jobs that you had?
Those were not the two shortest stints. I did another stint for the same company for 7 months. And again, it was just me and the owner. And there was a couple times where some paychecks weren't getting made.
Ooh.
And it was,
You got to get paid, man.
I know. See, and this was a time where like I have a family.
Yeah.
I'm married now.
Yeah, right.
And not having income coming into the household is not a great thing.
Nope.
And I tried to be reasonable, and it's just like, hey, I do work. I got to get paid. This is how this works. And when there was too much difficulty, like I would get paid eventually, but it was like not on payday all the time sometimes. And so it just felt like for somebody who now has a family and wants to buy a house, it's time to have a stable source of income.
Yeah.
And so it was that kind of thing that prompted me, like, even after only 7 months, it was, unfortunately time to move on kind of thing.
Yeah, but that one makes complete sense. I mean, you got to get paid for what you're doing.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's the other thing, too. Like, in nowhere is there a large gap in my employment, right? Like, it's not like I lost my job, got laid off or fired, and then couldn't get hired for months at a time. It was like, typically, I left one job on a Friday and started the next job on a Monday. Once in a while, I would take a vacation in between the two jobs, but I've only done that a handful of times.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think there's something to be said about that too, in that your job security, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, you're making the smarter choice and to get away from that because you need that security for your family, right?
Exactly.
And so I think that's where I can have like maybe a point on my side if we wanted to, if we're doing sides here, it's like I feel very secure in my job, right? Like,
yeah.
I've worked my way through it, and we've never had a downsize in the past, so they've never just laid off a bunch of people to downsize or anything like that. I say that, let me knock on wood real quick. But I feel very secure in my job. I don't feel like I have to go home worrying that my job's on the line or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel,
like I said, totally another point in your favor is there's lots of growth there. Like you're doing a lot of stuff. You got like, all the Meraki stuff you've done, the Palo stuff you've done, the Nexus stuff, the ACI. Like you're doing a lot. You're getting a lot of good experience. I think the trap that sometimes people can fall into is they're just going to work, and there's no growth. You're not learning any new skills. You become really comfortable with the network. You become really comfortable with the little bit that you have to do, right? And you don't have to worry about anything else outside of that. You're not really being challenged. And you know what? I would say that for some people, that's exactly okay because they just want to go to work, earn a paycheck, and go home. And they don't live to work.
Right. They work to live.
That's right.
But I feel like I'm sort of that way. Like there's definitely growth is good, right? If I got to where I wasn't growing, I feel like I would probably start looking somewhere else.
Yeah.
It just happens to be every time I start getting into that mode where I'm like, all right, I'm feeling stuck now. They decide they want to bring something new on, and it's like, ooh, it's like I get a mushroom, out of Mario, and it's like, all right, hold on, let me. We got this. So and then like what you're saying, in this past year, I mean, they're past, I guess technically in 2019 slash, 2019/2020, we bought a bunch of stuff, and it's going to take me a bit to learn it all. And so I've got something to chew on for the next, for the next good bit. So we'll see what comes up, in the future. But yeah, we definitely have grown. When I first started here, it was a complete flat network, right? Completely flat network. We had like a /20 or /21, and everything was just on it. And so we went from that to now we have a 3-tier core architect. It's crazy how much we've grown, how much equipment that we've grown into. Like, it's just with the times, the demand, right? We've grown in our clients and stuff like that. So just growth.
That's awesome. I think another key to wanting to stay where you're at, excuse me, cut that out, it is your boss, who you work for, the culture.
In where I'm at, the team that I work with, like, there's I would say there's around 4 of us or so that we're pretty darn close. Like, we can knock out pretty much anything that comes up, at our job, and we trust each other. We know each other's families, stuff like that. Like, and so these people have become my friends essentially, and so that's super nice, right? We've all been there. Some of them have been there longer than I have, so.
There's something to be said about that too. Like the team spirit, the culture is big. I definitely had that with a group of people that I worked with. We were like a family, and whenever we had big projects that required us to work late at night or something like that, everybody pitched in, right? Regardless of whether or not it was in our wheelhouse. Like, if there was an application upgrade, like, I typically didn't do the ERP side of the house, but if there was something going on, I was in there, and it's just like, give me something to do. What can I do to help us get through this and make sure we can all get out of here at a reasonable time? And the same thing happened when there was network upgrades. Like, there was application people, moving switches around the building, racking and stacking, helping us get stuff in. It was always a team effort, which was great. And the other side of that, I think, is definitely your manager. I've worked for a manager that was older, and all he cared about was his path to retirement. And he wasn't very interested or vested in my path for growth.
I got you.
And we brought in a consultant to do the virtual CIO thing. And working for the VCIO was amazing because he was interested in my growth. And he was interested in my career path. And when we started to look at new technologies, I was picked to go to training and do all this stuff. And that went on for a good couple of years. And it got to a point where the company that I worked for was going to terminate the relationship with the VCIO. That we had gone through a lot of growth. It felt like we could sustain on our own, and so the VCIO was not showing up as much anymore as he used to, and I could already tell that with my actual boss, like, things were starting to settle back into how they used to be.
The old ways were coming back.
Yeah. And so I could tell, like, the writing is on the wall, right? Like, as soon as the VCIO is like fully out of here, I'm going to go back to being stuck where I was before the VCIO showed up. And so I decided to take an opportunity and leave.
Yeah.
And that was also the job that was like an hour and a half drive away from where I lived.
So that you had 2 things going against you on that one, huh?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So you brought this up earlier, but how do you think COVID has affected the job market for guys like you and I that live in small town areas?
Well, I guess maybe if anything, that's been one positive about COVID is, forcing companies to go remote. I think companies are starting to see that remote's not that bad. That I think because our company is a very, what do you want to say? It's old school, right? It's an old school culture and everything like that. And they did not like the idea of going remote. But I think they've been opened up to it now that, they would have never been like, okay, y'all can work remote, for however many months we've been working remote now. And I think they kind of saw the benefit of it, right? That, we can do this and not be, I mean, we're adults, right? Like, that's honestly what it comes down to. We're adults. If they hire me to do a job, I'm going to do it, whether it's at my house or if I have to go and sit in the cubicle farm. So I think that has put people like us, on the list for your job that was an hour and a half. Well, let's say you could work remote. How nice would that have been?
Yeah, and
Not having to drive an hour and a half.
there were several locations. So like the main office was like an hour and a half away, but we had a manufacturing facility that was like literally out my back door. Like,
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it was like just over the next town border, right? And it was like a 5-minute drive from my house. And towards the end of me working there, I was able to negotiate, like, let me work there like 2 days a week. If you won't let me work from home, let me work there like 2 days a week, and just give me a little bit of a break here. And they did. Okay. But it was under like, well, as long as you have stuff to do there, don't just go there and take up a cube. Like, if you can figure out work that needs to get done up there, then okay, fine, we'll let you do that kind of thing.
Gotcha. So yeah, work, what we were talking about at the beginning, with Nashville right up the road, I feel like I could start applying for more like Nashville jobs, working remote, and not have to, go and battle wheelbarrows on I-65. Now I don't have to worry about that, right?
Right.
But I mean, like, what do you think? What's your opinion on COVID and
I think it's
working, and how's that help people in our areas?
I think it's leveled the playing field, right? Like, I don't know if if it gives anybody a competitive advantage, but I think it's leveled the playing field, because even though local places around here that are maybe a little bit further than I would have considered driving are hiring and allowing remote employees, now that means anybody anywhere can apply for the job. But I don't know if, people that live in other states are looking to, fill a job in Vermont. But maybe if it's a remote position, maybe they are. It was interesting, for a short time pre-COVID, Vermont was offering a $10,000 tax credit to anybody that moved to Vermont, either to take a job here or live here but work remotely.
Okay.
And they would give you a $5,000 tax credit for the first 2 years that you lived here, just for moving to the state during that time period and continuing to work either for somebody locally or you continue to work remotely.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when your entire state only has 600 some odd thousand.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess I could see it.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, like, it was starting to take a noticeable impact, because what we would see in the local population was that, by and large, a lot of people that grew up here took off and would go have a life somewhere else, and they might come back after they had kids. They might not. They would come back towards the end of their life, and so a lot of the schools were feeling the impact of that, and that there wasn't a whole lot of new school-age children coming in year after year. In fact, the school district that I worked at had to close an elementary school because there just was not that many new kids. Like, they could not sustain a third elementary school like they had, so they had to close it to go down to 2.
Wow. Okay.
And so this was an attempt by the state to bring more people back into the state, or try to keep them here.
I gotcha.
I don't know how well that worked.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's another thing that, we probably have going for us both, is it's a beautiful place to live, right?
Oh yeah.
There's so much going on here in Vermont, like, hiking trails, mountains, skiing. I'm not really into skiing personally, but there's tons of skiing and stuff like that. It's just a great place to be, and everything's a short drive away. If you really want to have some fun and get into some trouble, then you take a long drive. Going back to the brewery thing, they have a really cool program up here called a Passport. It's a beer passport, and it's a little card. I think they have an app for it too now. But you travel around to every single brewery and you get your passport stamped.
Okay.
And it's really neat. And if you stamp out, you fill up your passport, then you can trade in your passport. Every year there's like a brew fest down at the Burlington waterfront. You can trade in your completed passport for some cool swag.
Okay. Well, that's neat.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
Oh yeah.
Multiple
It was
times.
actually when my wife and I were dating. That's kind of like what we did.
Okay.
We
Okay.
loved traveling around all these different breweries, checking them out. I saw more of the state of Vermont while her and I were doing that than I had ever seen in my entire life. Like literally corners of the state I had never been to, and it was beautiful. It was a fun time.
Yeah, but see how cool is that you did that, right? That
Yeah,
you were able to go to all the different corners of Vermont and where otherwise you might not have.
exactly,
So
exactly.
that's cool. I'm gonna have to come up to Vermont sometime. It's a long drive, and I'm staying away from airplanes right now. So, but
I don't blame you.
yeah, it's a long drive, but I think it's worth it because like you'll have to take me to some like camping spots or something like that, and
Oh yeah, yeah. There's
do
campgrounds. There's
do
not
some
one.
trails and whatnot.
Yeah, there's state parks all over the place. There's actually several state parks not far from my house, and
Yeah,
campgrounds a little bit further. So there plenty to do, plenty of
I can
options.
get some patches while I'm there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
dude, that'd be awesome.
So yeah, going back to the working remote, I think it's leveled the playing field. I've always worked for remote. Well, not always, but I have been working remote at least a year before COVID started. I started my current job in January 2019, and I've been work from home since then, and I love it. I never want to go back to showing up somewhere to report to every single day. Like there's just so much flexibility in this. So I hope that as unfortunate as COVID is, that it has brought about a hopefully permanent change that, hey, this job, we thought it needed to be done here. It turns out doesn't necessarily have to, and that in the future you'll see more remote opportunities, like permanently remote opportunities. I know some people that I used to work with at another company. They are able to finally like they have such specialized skills in IT, right? Like I know a woman that she works with Salesforce. She does a lot with Salesforce.com
Hmm.
as like an application for a business. And there aren't a ton of businesses locally that use Salesforce. At least as she has been casually looking for a while for Salesforce related postings, she hasn't found a ton.
Okay.
And through networking in the community, like they have like a Salesforce users group, like she is aware of several businesses that use it, but there's not a lot of turnover. So, she can't just wait it out and apply. So because of COVID, she has found a large size business in the Northeast here that she's been able to apply for another Salesforce position.
Okay.
That,
Now,
I'm not necessarily sure that that opportunity would have been there had it not been for COVID. Right.
right. Enforcing people to go remote and all that.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Now, here's an interesting idea. How are they going to, because this might be a curveball for employers. How do you handle pay for someone who might be in a different area than, like if I was to, let's say if I applied for a job in California or in Seattle or something like that, I think their average income is a lot higher than my area.
Oh yeah.
And so how would that work? Like, would I get paid their scale? Because then would not everybody be applying for those that are in the lower average income?
Right. And
area?
you know what? That's I guess a negative for small town folks, right?
Yeah.
Like the cost of living isn't as high
Yeah.
here as it is, say, in like New York City or Seattle or LA or something like that, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
you're not going to make comparatively, you're not going to make the same money by any means.
Right.
So yeah, that I am very interested to see how that would happen. So like if you apply and get like a remote position with a company that's based out of a large area, are they going to pay that salary or are they going to scale it down to where you live?
Yeah, because that could be taken a couple different ways, right? Like, let's say me and you both applied for a job in California, and we both got a job there. But well, I don't know what y'all's average income is, but let's say your average income is higher than my average income. but if we're doing the same job, are we getting paid, the same California, or are you getting paid more because you're in Vermont? And you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
or
Yeah,
hell, let's compare it. Like if I was doing the same job that someone that lived in California,
right.
am I going to get paid different than the person that's living there?
I that's something that's always bothered me, because as I have networked and talked with other people, we don't sit there and have conversations about our income, right? But like,
Yeah.
it becomes obvious that they get paid more. That the same position in a different area can make more money.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. And then you start to look at like, well, no wonder people move out of Vermont, because they can go somewhere, do the same thing, and get paid a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you take into account the cost of living, they're still putting in their bank account, they're still pocketing more money, even after taking care of all their living expenses. And to me, doesn't seem quite fair, does it?
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
Maybe that's just a small town guy in us, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. Because if Aaron was in here, he'd be like, "Well, come move to the big city," But yeah,
no, it's a lot easier said than done, right? There's been a lot of times where I probably could have taken the opportunity to relocate, but
right, and I think that's
really tough to consider.
Yeah, and I think that's just a difference in a person, right? Like, sure, I could go move wherever and get a job in whatever location, but my family's here, right?
Yeah.
Most of my family's here, so it's like I don't know. Different people have different priorities, right? And so for me, I want to stick closer to my family. Some people, they don't mind moving across the United States. I've got a really good buddy of mine. He was born and raised here, and he's now in Upper Michigan. But that's the way he wanted to do it, and nothing wrong with that. It's just whatever people want to do.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think we can't label people, or not label people, but we can't say like, oh, you just got to move wherever the jobs are, or
right.
That's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
It just depends on your priorities and your interests.
Yeah, for sure. I know, for me personally, the family's here. Mm-hmm. My really good friends are here, and it would just be really tough to want to like take my family, uproot them, and go somewhere else. I mean, the schools here are really good. There's a lot to be said about my comfort level living here.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I have promised my wife that at some point we will move to her home state, which is not. She still lives in. She's from Massachusetts, right? So, it's not like it would be a huge lift to go from Vermont to Massachusetts.
More like a hover, right? Like,
yeah. Right. Yeah. But she grew up in a nice little like seaside town in Massachusetts, and we go there and we visit like every year, and it's beautiful. So I would have no problem moving down there. But
yeah,
we'll do that at some point.
At some point. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I don't have any plans of moving out of Tennessee at the moment, so
yeah,
I don't foresee it. I'm not gonna say not that I won't, but currently I don't see any reason.
So do you think that if you did, would your current employer entertain the idea of letting you work remotely?
I think so, because the only reason why I say that is because someone who worked there for a long time, he moved to Florida with his daughter, and they allowed that. They allowed him to work remote and live in Florida. Mm-hmm. So I don't think if it was like several years ago, they probably wouldn't have done that, just because of really, how new I was there to the company.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now that I'm starting to rack up on some years, I think I feel confident they would probably let me. I can't say that for sure, but I think they would.
Yeah.
And if I could go somewhere, I don't know where I would go, to be honest with you. I do have some family in Florida, but I'm not really big into Florida.
Yeah.
And then I also have some family over in Texas. So I don't know. I really don't know where I would move if I can move anywhere.
Probably not far from where you are now, though.
Yeah, if I had some family out west, I would definitely like look into like the Colorado area, or
Oh yeah, there you go.
somewhere where there's like trees and trails and
Still
that kinda,
feels like home.
yeah, the outdoors.
Yeah. You're not moving to San Jose
No.
anytime soon. No Silicon City for Dan.
No, definitely not. Too many people.
No. Yep. Yep. Been there. Don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Awesome, Dan. This has been a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
think we should do this more often.
Yeah, we should just have these like chill conversations, where Aaron doesn't talk the entire time, and we can and we
Get a word in.
Yeah, we can
Get a word in edgewise.
People didn't even know what my voice sounded like, really, because no,
That's great.
I'm joking.
No, it's all good, all good. No, this has been great. I think it's an interesting perspective on the market. I would love to have this conversation again with Andy and or Aaron and understand their point of view. 'Cause Andy, I think, has always been close to Philadelphia area, and that's obviously a huge area. I know that Aaron is not originally from California. As long as I've known him, he has been in big cities. But I am aware that he is not from a big city originally.
But now he's bounced around a few places though, right?
Yeah.
Was he from Florida?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Maybe is it just his parents are in Florida?
Yeah, his parents are currently in Florida. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of great perspectives to offer. And I'm sure we'll have those conversations soon. But this was a good one. Any parting bits before we go?
No, not that I can think of.
Well, I would say, regardless of where you are, if you want to help yourself out in the job market, spend some time on your LinkedIn profile and spend some time networking. Get in with local communities. There's tons of great community-focused, IT-focused as well, organizations, right? So I used to do a lot of SharePoint administration. I know there's like a SharePoint users group. There is a VMware users group, VMUG. I am a VMUG leader here in my area, and we do we haven't so much with COVID, of course, but we used to do quarterly in-person meetings, and we would get sometimes upwards of 100 IT professionals would come out. And because it was one of the few IT gatherings in the area, we would even get people to come attend that had nothing to do with VMware. They just wanted to talk to other IT people in the area.
Okay.
And for a few years, I teamed up with my Cisco account manager, and we did like a mini Cisco Live. We called it Cisco Connect Vermont. And she actually got Cisco marketing to take it over. But again, we got like 150 people to come out that were all focused on Cisco products and networking. And there's lots of businesses around here that do that. And we would, showcase the latest and greatest coming from Cisco. And it was a great opportunity to meet other people. When you start to network like that, like you can get your name out there and you just talk to people, and the next time an opportunity comes up, someone like, oh yeah, that Dan guy, he was really sharp. Well, let's see if he's interested in this position I have open here. And honest to God, like that's how I've gotten some of the jobs that I've gotten, right? It's just through interactions like that. So I highly recommend, once life gets closer to somewhat normal and we start doing those in-person gatherings, keep an eye out. Look for VMUG. Look for other user groups in the area. What's another one? The name is escaping me right now. What's that super popular kind of free IT forum help desk software? Starts with an S, I think.
You're not talking about service? No, that's not free.
No, yeah. It's like free help desk software.
I don't know.
Spiceworks.
Oh, Spiceworks.
You ever heard of Spiceworks? Yeah.
Yeah.
Spiceworks has user groups.
Okay.
There's a local Spiceworks group that has a few meetings from time to time, and I think they have a big conference too every once in a while.
Okay. Yeah, I will say for people who do live in small towns, like for me, when I do which of course this past year that we gotta kind of forget about last year, but previously, we have that Cisco Connect. We have that in Nashville. So I would drive up to Nashville to go to that. And you'd have a lot of people there, and you get to talk to fellow nerds that are doing some of the same projects that you are. So,
But how far away is Nashville for you?
it's about an hour or so.
About an hour?
Yeah.
So Montreal is like an hour, hour and a half from me, but crossing the border can be a chore sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next closest city that would even have something like that would have been Boston.
Oh, wow.
And that's like a 3.5 hour drive for me from where I'm at.
Yeah. Okay.
And then outside of Boston, maybe Albany, New York
I gotcha.
would have some sort of conference like that sometimes. And again, that's almost equidistant. That's a 3 hour drive for me. So almost as far away as Boston is.
I gotcha. So maybe even some more remote places that maybe that's not an option then.
Yeah. So, and that was the tough part. Like, until we brought stuff like VMUG up here and that Cisco Connect event, if you wanted to attend a conference like that, you had to go to Boston. That was like the only option.
I gotcha.
And for a long time, there were people that would carpool to go down to Boston to go to the various IT conferences just to keep the costs down so work would let them go.
I gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it would be worth it. Let's say if it was like a 2 or 3 hour drive, I'd probably still go just because of it's really not even going for the Cisco stuff. It's getting to talk to other people and learn how they're using these products and whatnot. Like what kind of scenarios are they facing, that kind of thing. Like I had the last one I went to, there was a guy there who he was really good at programming as a network engineer, and he was sharing some of his Postman. You have your crap, I'm forgetting what it's called now, but basically like your jobs that you run in Postman. He was sharing a lot of those with me, and it was like, oh man, I could use that right there. And so he was kind of sharing some of his code with me on that, and so that was just cool meeting that guy, right? Like that was worth it to me to go up there, because I got to reach out to somebody that, you know, he worked in a different field than I do, but or a different vertical. But yeah, it's just nice talking to other people because, so let's back up just a little bit, because when you're in a small town, you don't have a lot of people in your town that talk shop, you know, with like specifically into networking, right? Like none of my friends around here do. And so when you go to these places, you get to finally talk shop with people who know what you're talking about, you know?
Right. You finally get that opportunity to have those conversations. Yeah, you're absolutely right? Because, you know, you get the sales pitch, and the sales pitch has, you know, white papers, which are, you know, always the perfect scenario, right? And it's close to your use case, but maybe not dead on. And so always, you know, socializing and meeting with other people to get those additional use cases, like, oh, how are you using it? Oh, hey, that sounds a lot like how I could use it. Oh, all right. Or, you know, you might be focused on one solution, then you talk to somebody else from like, oh no, you don't want to do that. I've done that. It didn't work. Here, you want to do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. It's nice. It's nice networking with networkers.
What does Carl call? He dropped it one day in the A1 Fans channel. An awesome network of networking networkers.
Yeah, there you go.
Is the art of network engineering.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I think this one's a wrap. Dan, thank you so much for spending the time. It was a great conversation.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And we'll see you all on the next one.
See ya.
Hey everyone, this is AJ. If you like what you heard today, then make sure you subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcatcher. Smash that bell icon to get notified of all of our future episodes. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Art of NetEng. That's Art of NETENG. You can also find us on the web at artofnetworkengineering.com, where we post all of our show notes. You can read blog articles from the co-hosts and guests, and also a lot more news and info from the networking world. Thanks for listening.